Welcome to Doc's Daily Dose for Dads, as prescribed by Dr. Harrison. Well, here we are. I'm your host, Dr. Antonio Harrison. And before we get started on today's advice, I want to let you know I like to teach from a personal narrative of storytelling. To me, it's the original form of education. I mean, back in the day, the elders would sit you down, tell you what you needed to know. It would illustrate exactly what you needed to stay away from, what you needed to do, how to survive. So that's where we're going, back to it. So today's topic is, my kid is in trouble with the law. Now, this is probably more for the parents of teenagers, right? But regardless, even if you got young kids, they're going to grow up to be teenagers one day, and they may have an encounter with law enforcement. So let me tell you a story. I was a bit of a rambunctious youth, rebellious, counter control. Part of it, though, was because I did really well in sports and got straight A's. So I did all the things I was supposed to do and supposed to take care of. So there were times when I felt like I could just wild out and do me, because at the end of the day, all the stuff I was asked to do, I was handling. Now I'm 16. I got a car for the first time. 1983 Pontiac Brom. We used to call it the Broham, money green with mirror tint on the bottom, and had stupid beat in the trunk. I mean, it was ridiculous. If you remember that, me pulling up at school in the morning, share a story. Anj, it's lit with PhDJ. That's her show. You should check it out in Hawaii. She remembers I used to be her theme music every morning pulling into the parking lot. Anyways, it's winter formal. My cousin and I take Anj, actually, and my girlfriend, Jenny, and we go to winter formal. After winter formal, we go to the after party. Now, the after party wasn't really that cracking. It was kind of in the spur of the moment. Nothing was planned. So I try to go and hook up with my girlfriend in the bedroom. You know, just some young high school stuff. Well, her mom ends up showing up and snatching her out of the house. And at that point, I was kind of pissed off. And I was like, you know what? Let's get out of here. Let's go have some real fun. Now, back in the day, there used to be this club called the Arena in downtown Los Angeles. And it was for like 14 or 16 and up. There's no alcohol sold, even though everybody went there intoxicated. But it was for kids to experience, dancing and the club vibe. So my cousin, myself, and one of my good friends, who I will keep nameless here, we decided we are going to go to the Arena. So we hop in the car. Now, I'm not going to lie. At this after party, I'd had a couple shots of tequila. And I was a big weed smoker in high school. So I had a couple blunts rolled in the ashtray. So we start driving to the Arena. We're on the freeway, and we decide we're going to hotbox one of these blunts. If you don't know what hotbox is, that's when you roll up all the windows and you spark the joint of the blunt and you let the smoke fill the car. We're smoking. I'm driving. I've been riding on a donut on my front right tire for the last 6 months. I just didn't get it fixed. I really wasn't going anywhere besides school and back home, so it didn't seem like a big deal. Now, I wasn't driving erratically, nothing crazy. My donut just popped. Now, my donut pops, and I can see that there's an exit right there, but if I try to make that exit at the speed that we're going, I'm worried that we're going to lose control. So I slow down gradually and pull off to the side and kind of just roll clunk, clunk, clunk to the next exit. Pull off the next exit. Now, as we get off, I'm going to use some hand movements here. As we get off, you come down the exit. The other side is just an on-ramp to the freeway, and the exit leads right into the street. Now, as we're coming down about 5 miles per hour, about 100, 200 feet ahead at the stoplight is 2 police cars who have pulled someone over for a traffic stop. I see to my left that there's an apartment complex parking structure. It's a parking lot, just flat one ground. And I know that you can make a left-hand turn over a double yellow line in California if you're going into a driveway. So I figured, hey, you know what? We're good. And I'm like, put the blunt out, roll down just put the blunt out, hurry up. So we put it out. I make the left-hand turn into the parking lot. I put it into a parking space, put it in park. Before I could even turn the ignition off, both cop cars are on us, lights shining, guns drawn, yelling, get out of the car, get out of the car. I open the car and smoke just billows out. At this point, I knew I'm caught. Like, there was no sense in trying to fight it or argue it. I was caught. So the officer pulls me back to the car, cuffs me. He pulls out my cousin and my friend from school, and they're talking to the other officer over to the side. My cousin is going nuts, and he's just like, oh, you can't. I'm just like, bro, calm down. Calm down. Like, you're not going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. There's no reason for you to go to jail also. So the other officer that's with me, he's pretty cool. He's just talking to me, and it's because I'm being honest with him. I'm not going to argue with this guy. You just caught a bunch of smoke coming out like Cheech and Chong from my car, right? Plus, I'm sure you smell the tequila on my breath. So he's asking us where we're going. I tell him. He says, is there anything in the car? I was like, yeah, there's about a roach of a blunt and a full blunt left in the ashtray. It's right there. It's not even hidden. And as he takes me through the field sobriety test, I do pretty well with it. And he's like, well, I'm going to have to put you under arrest for driving under the influence. And I just knew it was going to happen. So I asked him, hey, would you mind if I have a cigarette before we get in the car? And he just chuckled. And he was like, you're not even old enough to have cigarettes. You're 16. You got to be 18. We both kind of had a laugh at that. He threw me in the back of the car and takes me to the precinct, Rampart Division in Los Angeles, which most people in LA aren't big fans of. Now, this is at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. They bring me in. They process me. They put me in a cell, holding cell, and there's another grown man in there who is intoxicated out of his mind, and he's talking all kind of crazy stuff. There's another person in there asleep, another grown man laying on the floor. I'm not in a kiddie jail. I'm in real big boys jail. And I'm only 16. And I'm drunk, and I'm high. And I'm worried to death. So, around 3 o'clock in the morning, they say, we're going to call your parents and have you released to your parents. What's the phone number? So I give them the number. Now, unbeknownst to me, they had taken my cousin and my friend home. They actually drove them home, which was very nice of them. They didn't have to do that. And when they drove my friend home, his mom called my mom in the wee hours saying, your son's been arrested. He was drinking, driving, smoking weed. So my mom's up waiting for this call. It's around 3:30, they call my mom. And they say, we got your son, come pick him up. So about an hour later, they bring me out of the holding cell and they bring me into the lobby. Now, normally there's like, the lobby with the seating area, and then there's the counter that the police are on the other side. And they bring me on the other side of the counter and they've got me cuffed to a chair, right? So my hands are behind my back and I'm cuffed to this chair. I'm waiting. I'm waiting and I'm waiting. About 30 minutes later, I hear a screech in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh shit. It's my mom. And I hear a couple doors slam. My sister walks up to the door and holds it open. My mom comes walking in and she's yelling her head off. I don't even know what she's saying. I can't believe you. Who are you hanging out with? What are you doing? Do you think you could have hurt somebody? All this stuff, yelling and screaming at me. My dad. Now, if you've never seen my dad's about 6'1", and he looks like the Hulk. Actually, he was the Hulk for Halloween. He just painted himself green. He's extremely buff, extremely big, large black man. And he comes walking in with zero expression on his face. And he heads straight for the counter. And I'm thinking to myself, my hands are handcuffed to this chair. If he decides to give me an ass whooping, I have no way to defend myself. And my dad doesn't give a damn about the fact that the police are right there. He walks to the counter, he swings open the door, and the officer gets nervous. And he's like, sir, 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 and he puts his hand on his gun. My dad walks right behind the counter, walks right over to me, and he gives me a hug and asks me if I'm okay. All I did was take a deep breath and sighed in relief and love in that moment. They continue the process and they release me. We get in the car. My mom's still going nuts. My dad hasn't said anything else. We start driving. My mom's still yelling. And since I had parked the car in a parking spot, the officer didn't tow it, thankfully. And they're like, you can go pick up the car. So as we're driving, my mom's yelling. She goes, well, where the hell is the car? And in my drunken high state, I'm like, I don't know, right? All right, I didn't have any other response. I didn't know where it was. So now she's got to make a U-turn, go back to the police department, ask them where the car is. We then go to the car, we get there, and I'm like, we got to change the tire. It popped. That's the whole reason I got in trouble, or at least in my mind, right? So my dad gets out, we fix the tire. The only thing he's saying to me is, hand me this, hand me this. And then my dad's like, I'm going to drive your car home, you ride with me. So my mom and my sister take off. Me and my dad take off into Broham. No word said. We're just driving. About 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the drive as we're heading back to Pasadena, he asks, are you hungry? I was like, I'm starving. Goes to Del Taco, gets me some food. We go back home, go into the house. He's like, we'll talk about this later. Tells my mom to come upstairs with him so they can have a discussion. And I go to my room and I pass out. Now, here's what you need to know about this if your child gets in trouble with the law. A lot of you might blow your top, flip a switch, do essentially what my mom did. But there are already natural consequences in place for the behavior I just engaged in, for driving under the influence. There's nothing you could do in that moment as a parent, yell, scream, give them an ass whooping, that's going to compare to what is going to happen in the legal system. That kid is now a part of a marginalized legal system with the potential to face jail time to ruin his future opportunities. There's so many things that can happen that are no longer in his control or in the parent's control. And you think your ass whooping or your yelling or scolding is going to have an effect? It won't. So here's what happened to me. I ended up having my license taken away for a year. I had to pay a bunch of fines. I had some community service. Once I was able to get which meant my car was done, like I couldn't drive my car anymore, so it had to be sold, which I loved. I loved that car. Man, the Broham was the greatest. I had to catch the bus everywhere from then on. I had to explain to people why I didn't have my car anymore, right? It was on my record, and it was going to take 10 years or 7 years at that time. I think it was 7 or 10 years for it to fall off. So this was something that I was going to carry with me forever, including when I had to apply to colleges. Do you think an ass whooping compares to that? Not even close. So the thing you have to understand is those natural consequences in getting in trouble with the law are greater than anything you think you're imposing upon your children discipline-wise. What I remember in that moment most was my pop's understanding. My pop's unconditional love for me. It also made me realize how stupid my actions were and how disappointed he probably was with me at that time, yet also how much he cared that I got in trouble, but it had no bearing on how he felt about me as his son. He just knew that I had fucked up. We all fuck up from time to time. I just kind of had a big fuck up. So you can give your discipline or your punishment, whatever you want to call it, at some point down the road. I mean, I had all kind of privileges taken away. My mom really didn't trust me anymore for a while. But again, that didn't compare to having to walk into court at 16 years old and face a judge, or having to go to the DMV and get paperwork for an SR-22 when my license was off suspension and having to pay that extra money out of my own pocket. So here's the advice if your kid gets in trouble with the law. First, make sure they're okay. Make sure they're all right. I'm 16 sitting in a cell with a belligerent drunk adult and 2 other adults at 16. Fearing about all the stuff I've seen on TV or heard, or whatever the case may be. Second, get the truth. Find out what the actual story is. Talk to the officer, Talk to your kid. Talk to any witnesses. Talk to whoever you need to get the actual truth of what happened. And third, think before you act. Don't just go off the deep end. Think about it. Now, this is specifically for if your kid gets in trouble with the law, but this works if your kid gets in trouble, period. See if they're okay. Find out the truth, gather all the information you need, and think before you act. Now, I have to give credit to my dad here. Kind of ass backwards a little bit. It was because of his experiences being incarcerated that he knew what I needed. He knew I needed a hug. He knew I needed some love. He knew I had just gone through some scary shit. He knew that I had been handcuffed and my freedom had been taken away, and that my mind was racing with all the things that could possibly happen. He also knew that jail food is shit, and that probably the first thing I would want to do when I got out was to eat. My dad showed me love in that moment because of his experiences of what he had gone through. So if you've ever been in trouble with the law, or in trouble at school, or in trouble anywhere, remember what it felt like before you lose your shit on your kid. And if you've never experienced it, stop and think, how would I feel if I was in my son's shoes, and what would I need at this moment? It may be different than your initial reaction. That's Doc's Daily Dose for Dads. Don't forget to hashtag Doc's Daily Dose for Dads or hashtag 4D. Check out the podcast and the videos either on YouTube, all the social media at rebirthbx. You can go to the website, rebirthbx.com. I'll be back at you tomorrow with some more advice.